Hello everyone, this is Midlife Music Teacher and I'm Mrs. G, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Nutcracker. Let's take it from the top. I do this unit of study with third grade, and I've been doing this unit of study with third grade since I started my career in teaching. There's only been a few years where I did not teach third grade, and only 1 year where I taught third grade but didn't teach the Nutcracker. And that's because I had a student teacher at the time who was teaching the lessons at that time period where I would have taught the Nutcracker. One of the reasons I love the Nutcracker, I was introduced to the Nutcracker at a young age when I took ballet. I'll link my ballet story video below. In any case, the ballet, the story, the music especially, has made an impact on my life, and so I love teaching this unit of study to my third graders. The way that we study the Nutcracker has evolved over the years with different resources that have been out there, different upgrades that I've made. Despite upgrades I have made to my Nutcracker unit of study, I always revert to this recording of the Nutcracker by Tchaikovsky. I just love this recording, and I still resort to the physical media when doing this unit of study. I've just grown used to and accustomed to the tempos and styles of each piece as it was recorded for this CD. I'm going to share with you basically my steps for teaching the Nutcracker. I always start the Nutcracker by doing the march from the Nutcracker. It is a well-known, very, very popular piece of music. Oftentimes I'll play it and the students will be like, hey, this is from Home Alone, or this is from Elf, or I've heard this in a commercial. It's so super popular and well-known that that's the one I start with. And I start with the march. Number one, because it's well known. Number two, because it's kind of a simpler piece with a simple form. And we use this song to kind of introduce how we're going to do the listening for the Nutcracker, our guided listening, if you would. Each third grade student receives a Nutcracker packet, and one of the pages in the packet has all these musical elements, and they can refer to this page. We have reviewed these musical elements so far this school year, and then they turn to the specific listening page where they listen for time signature, tempo, and dynamics. They have to put 2 words for how it makes them feel. And at this point, we skip form and we skip instruments heard. Sometimes we'll go back to those later. So for the Nutcracker lesson 2, I always combine this lesson with a Thanksgiving blues lesson. So the part about the Nutcracker only takes about 1/3 of the lesson time. And what we do is we talk about Mr. Tchaikovsky. We read a biography about him and talk about his history, his life, and his works as a composer. Then we review the march, the musical elements, time signature, tempo, dynamics, how it made them feel, and its form, and then we wrap up with a fun boomwhacker version of the march. I believe the music for this version of the march came from Music K-8. It's like a little kazoo version, and I will link this particular video in the description below. For the lesson 3, we talk about the story of the Nutcracker. And so I let the students tell me what they know about the story of the Nutcracker. And then I retell the story using this book here. After a retelling of the story, I also talk about how Mr. Tchaikovsky wrote the music, but the story is based on E.T.A. Hoffman's The Nutcracker Prince and the Mouse King. After we talk about the story, we listen to Dance of the Reed Flutes, also known as Dance of the Mirlitons. And they listen for those musical elements, time signature, tempo and dynamics, 2 words on how it makes them feel. If they want to fill out what instruments they hear, they can, but they don't have to. We haven't really reviewed the instruments yet this year, so they can leave that blank if they want. The next thing we do is we talk about the form of Dance of the Reed Flutes, because this is a form we talked about last year. Dance of the Reed Flutes is in rondo form, so we listen for its form, and then if there's time, we add percussion instruments. Lesson 4 of the Nutcracker is the Russian dance. And this is always a favorite because everybody knows this song. It plays everywhere. And the fact that the song is just over 1 minute long makes it very easily accessible. So I play the music after reviewing all the musical elements. They listen for time signature, tempo, dynamics, and 2 words on how this music makes them feel. Hopefully they can see how this music sounds very different than Dance of the Reed Flutes that we did the week before. If we didn't get a chance to play the percussion play-along for Dance of the Reed Flutes, we'll do that before listening to Russian Dance or Trepak. Then we leave the part about form blank because I have them turn to the tap chart that's in their packet. This tap chart is ancient. I'm not even sure where I found it. I've been using it probably since I was student teaching. And what's neat about this tap chart is there is a circle for every beat of the song. And some of the circles have spikes. I call those starbursts. Of course, the challenge of using the tap chart is, can they tap the last starburst on that last big note of the song? We usually do it 2 or 3 times to give them that chance to practice with the tap chart. And then we look at the tap chart and I say, you can see the form of the song by looking at the tap chart. And so we figure out that the song Russian Dance is in ABA form, and we add that to our worksheet. For lesson 5, we listen to Waltz of the Flowers. But before we listen to Waltz of the Flowers, we talk a little bit about ballet. We talk about what ballet is and its history, and I use this book to talk about ballet. Like several of my resources for this unit of study, I have been using this book what feels like forever, but it's a great book, and I read this little column here about the history of dance and the history of ballet. I add the internet and YouTube to this final paragraph. When I turn the page, I give students who take ballet class an opportunity to share what they see in a typical ballet or dance class. The mirrors, the floor, the bars. We talk about how they can start dancing from the age of 3 and how they learn basic steps and positions first. I read to them what's in this little column about how French is the language of ballet because that's where the first steps were written down. And then we go over the 5 positions, and I make all the students get out of their chairs, spread out around the room, and we all make the 5 basic positions. Then I talk about point, and I take my old point shoes and I pass them around the room so that they can have a hands-on experience with point shoes. And then we talk about how ballet has no words, how this whole story, if you see the Nutcracker, is told without anyone speaking. And then, of course, we talk about how important the music is for a ballet. After that, we listen to Waltz of the Flowers for the musical elements. At this point, I only play about 2 minutes of the song so they can listen for the musical elements. After that, they go to a color the form page. Now, I found this color the form page ages ago, probably when I was student teaching, probably around the same time as I found that Russian dance tap chart. But I really like this coloring page because it keeps the students engaged as they listen to a 7+ minute instrumental piece of music. So there's a little icon for each theme of the piece, and so they color each little icon as it happens in the music. Overall, the piece is in ABA form, but they get to hear each little theme as it happens. After that, we do this really fun musication percussion play-along for Waltz of the Flowers. It's one of my favorite videos to play along to that musication has. They have a lot of cool boomwhacker stuff, which sometimes we'll use for Russian dance, but I really like this Waltz of the Flowers. And as a finale to our Nutcracker unit of study, I end with Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. It's probably, in addition to March and Russian Dance, and probably Waltz of the Flowers too, it's probably one of the most iconic pieces from this ballet. And when we talk about Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, I introduce them to the instrument called the celeste or the celesta. And so I show them a clip from this video, which talks about the instrument. It gives a look at the insides of the instrument, talks about how it's a percussion instrument. I also play a few clips of other songs that use the celeste. For example, when kids hear this music, they think of Harry Potter because John Williams uses a celeste in the Harry Potter Hedwig's theme.
The name Celeste actually it's a French name meaning heavenly, and it does make a very heavenly sound, as you'll hear. You may have recognised that tune, probably its first entry into the orchestral repertoire, Tchaikovsky's Sugar Plum Fairy from the Nutcracker.
We listen to Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy for the musical elements, and then if there's time, we'll do a play-along video with it. I also include a word search and a couple of coloring pages in this packet in case there's extra time. At the end of this unit of study, I take all these packets home and I correct them over Christmas vacation. For me, it's one of my favorite things to do this time of year. I love the Nutcracker, I love ballet, and I love sharing some of my passions with my students. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're going to end on a high note. Please like and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Bye.